Ladies and gentlemen, shake the sand out of your shoes, cut an aloe vera leaf for your burns, and contemplate the theoretical existence of dark matter.
Because it's time to talk Tull to me.
Welcome back, everyone, to Talk Tull to Me.
I am Nick McGill.
And I'm Omen Said.
And we are here after a brief hiatus to dive back into the timeline of Jethro Tull.
We hope that you're well rested. We hope that we are well rested. And we cannot wait to resume this incredible journey that we are all on together, examining song by song every studio album that Jethro Tull ever produced.
So it's August, and the first weekend... No, that doesn't work.
Yeah, keep going. Keep going. This is great. August, named after Emperor Augustus. I was telling you earlier, Nick, that my first thought this morning was how selfish Emperor Augustus was to name an entire month after himself, thereby throwing off the entire Roman calendar for the rest of us.
Because August became the 8th month.
Yeah, booting October. I was literally about to say October. Booting September into, well, and then Julius.
That's the thing. I think that happened first, right?
It was Julius and then Augustus, or Augustus then Julius. I don't feel any shame in saying that I do not know the order of all of the Roman emperors. However, because they added it, they moved September, the 7th month, to the position of the 9th month. And October, the 8th month, is now the 10th month. December, what should have been the 10th month, is now the who even knows month. And it's all just a bit cockeyed.
All of that leading up to the fact that
we have now launched a new podcast, Rage Modern Calendar Systems to Me.
Rage Roman calendars.
Yeah. Why are you so good at this?
No, the whole point of this diatribe is to say that in a week, Ian Anderson is turning 72. The in-house slide whistle band.
Yeah, happy birthday, Ian Anderson.
72 years.
I mean,
he's a septuagenarian.
Whoa!
There it is.
Put that in your calendar.
He's a Septemberarian.
Actually, he's an Augustinian. Oh wait, does that make him a Leo? I don't know any of them.
I don't know either.
But we just wanted to say to the founder of the feast, happy birthday. What an amazing accomplishment to be rocking for
87 years.
Well, I mean, he was an instrumentalist in school. I mean, he's been a musician for like 60 years.
What did he play in school? That's not like a quiz. That's a genuine question.
No, he played the guitar.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Yeah, he does have some guitar chops.
Oh, big time. Yeah.
I mean, they're not Martin Lancelot Barr.
No one's is.
That's the reason my wife gave me when she left me.
So to all of you who feel inspired to wish Mr. Anderson a happy birthday, I'm sure he would greatly appreciate it if you went and bought some swag, because the best birthday present in the world is money.
And not only is this monumental because we have returned, but it is monumental for a, I think, far more important reason.
What's that, Nick?
We are starting album number 3. One of both of our favorites, I believe, Benefit.
Oh my God.
We've been talking
Benefit.
about it for months and months and months, and it's finally here. We are we are getting into the really toothsome Tull now.
Yeah. Oh, talk toothsome Tull to me.
Tooth Tull.
If you have an aversion to hearing two grown men cry, you might want to just skip this album.
Yeah, so that would be, let's see how many tracks we got. That would be, including bonus, that is 14. So let's see, that's into...
We'll see you at Christmas.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a couple of months worth. Oh yeah, I think that's a decent enough trigger warning there, but it's just going to be just gushing tears
Nick,
and other fluids.
I mean, oh dear God, Nick, tell me in a couple of words. I want you to tell me your feelings about this album, your hot take on this album, if you will, and I'm going to give you 15 seconds because I know that you could literally talk about this album like nonstop for a month.
Correct.
So I'm going to give you 15 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Go.
It's dark. It's meaty.
Yes.
There is such a nostalgia to this album for me personally, and then this is also the album that you and I bonded on.
Preach.
This is the album that I
Your 15 seconds are up. I'm sorry. You're done.
All right, give it to me. You go now. 15.
Oh my God, this is a semi-aquatic, lucid dream of darkness and depth in a part of my soul that surprises me every time it. Oh my God, it's hard.
15 is hard. Not a lot of time. I enjoy semi-aquatic being the.
I don't know. I panicked. Yeah, and now all the kids are going to be doing the 15-second Tull challenge on the YouTube.
Oh yes, please.
So let's talk about some facts. How about that? Let's ground ourselves in some facts, because otherwise we're just going to drift off into reverie.
Yeah, some album specific facts. We're not even diving into the first track yet.
Right. Okay. So Benefit, third album by Jethro Tull, the same core 4 lineup from the previous album.
However,
backdoor, side door, new member introduction. They are testing. Nick,
are you asking me?
I'm asking you who they're testing.
They are testing
John Evan. You're right, Nick. John Evan, the keyboardist, is featured on some of the tracks and creates a bit of I was going to say a sea change, but I don't think that's actually what I want to say. He changes the dynamic of the band a little bit, musically, artistically, and for the better, I would say.
I think so, because who was on the limited amount of keys that we had in the last two albums? That was... Or did we have keys at all, now that I think about it?
If so, they were very limited, and I don't remember who they were.
I think Ian has been known to play the piano.
He's tickled the ivory.
But I'm not sure it was anything...
He's also played the piano.
He's a poacher. You've heard it here first. No, I'm sorry. He just goes up and tickles them.
Yeah, he's a wildlife tickler.
Oh gosh.
Actually, he literally is.
Yeah, he really is. My however, though, before what I was alluding to is that this is our last album with Glenn Cornick.
Last album with Glenn Cornick.
Yeah.
Get him while he's hot.
Mm-hmm. And because this is such a darker, for lack of a better term, heavier, weightier album, he is gonna be hot. We're gonna have some really tasty bass in this album.
Hose off the bassist, someone call the fire department. Glenn Cornick's caught fire again. Yeah, so those are some facts. It was released in 1970. It was recorded between 69 and 70. The band was touring extensively, and their tour schedule was pretty grueling.
Yeah.
Which possibly might have contributed to some of this kind of below the surface content.
Yeah.
Shall we say?
Yeah, and it was an early 1970 release. It was April.
Right. They're always ahead of the curve, Jethro Tull. And, you know, my understanding is that it was a bit of a struggle with Chrysalis, actually.
Really?
There were some conflicts with how they wanted it to be released, I believe. And it's interesting to note that the British release and the American release are actually different.
And I just want to point that out. I don't think I've ever said it on the podcast, but I'm sure you've heard me say it like 200 times.
What's that?
The tape version that I had of this was a different track order than the CD album that I have of this.
Right.
And it's because the tape album was the 1970 US release. The CD is the re-release, which has the UK order.
Fascinating.
And I didn't know that until literally just now. I thought I had mismemories, but I listened to it so much that you know how you can listen to an album so much that you know the next song, you know what's coming up.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
When I transferred from I stopped listening to tapes when I went to college, I did not bring a tape deck.
Right.
And I didn't have the CD until probably my second or third year. So there was a couple of years where I wasn't listening to Benefit. So there was this kind of limbo of not having that exposure. So was I misremembering what was wrong with me? But it never, even to this day, listening to the CD album, it does not jive completely. It is so ingrained in my DNA to have that US release order.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
So I think that you actually, what did we do before we had CDs? Not burned me a cassette tape. You copied me a cassette tape.
I guess, yeah.
Of Benefit. And I believe that that's how I listened to it, because I listened to that cassette so much that the first couple of tracks actually got warbly.
Yep.
Like either there was an error in the transfer process or just the tape itself started to wear out.
Yeah, that's my guess.
And so when I first started listening to it on the CD, I was like, "Oh, this doesn't sound right," because I was used to that. I was used to the defect. You know what I mean? Because I played it so much in the 1990 Toyota Corolla that my mom gave me in its waning years to drive myself to and from the Renaissance Fair, where Nick, you and I spent many a happy hour.
I don't remember the Corolla. I only remember the Subaru.
No, there was no Subaru. I never drove a Subaru.
Your mother's your mother's Subaru, yeah.
The one that I impaled.
There wasn't one after that? I thought there was a replacement Subaru.
Well, there was, but I didn't have anything to do with it. No, you remember the T-Mobile?
Oh,
that tried to kill me on several occasions.
I think so now, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we're sinking into the delicious, warm quicksand of memory, but this is the kind of effect that this album has, Nick.
It really does. It really does.
I know. Okay, I'm gonna save that for the song. Save it for the song, Roman. Okay. Are there any other facts that we want to discuss?
Let's see. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, we can get into production later. We can get into musical stylings later. We'll definitely get into reception. Oh no, don't you want to do the review? Okay. So yeah, let's jump into the review and we'll go for the other things later.
So you've now heard a little bit about what Nick and I have to say about the album Benefit. Now let's hear what Rolling Stone magazine had to say about the album Benefit in 1970.
Oh snap.
Nick, are you ready for this?
I am. Yeah, I just want to note, Omen said, "I found the original Rolling Stones review. Do not read it. I want to read it to you live." So I've not read this, and I'm very excited to get that text, that preemptive text.
Yeah. Are you sitting down?
I am. Should I stand up and sit down again just to be sure?
I wouldn't recommend it.
I wouldn't chance it.
Not without a doctor's note.
A spotter.
All right. Written by Jack Shadouian. Shadouian.
And just to clarify, this is not the chucklehead from For a Thousand Mothers last album.
All right, here it goes.
Give it to me.
The popularity of Jethro Tull continues to amaze me.
Wow. What an opener.
They draw good crowds. They get lengthy interviews and write-ups in the rock press. They turn people on. I've got to think that Ian Anderson must be an extremely nice, cooperative, charismatic, or some such kind of cat. None of which are true. He's the opposite of all those things. Because I find his records pretty lame and dumb.
Is this a high school student?
No, this is a staff writer on the Rolling Stone magazine.
It feels very like, I think it's stupid. It's lame.
Wait for it.
But I guess in the 70s it was standard dialect.
The new album, Benefit, is a sluggish bore. A kind of anthology of rock music performed dispiritedly and mechanically.
Ooh.
Especially rhythm. Each track creaks stiffly, but given the barren derivative material Anderson has come up with, the wooden delivery is understandable.
Wow.
His idea of a song is to get some inexpressibly commonplace snippet of melody, repeat it, affix an inane riff or two, and let the boys pound it out, with some occasional and usually ill-advised chirping on flute for texture.
Ill-advised.
For quote-unquote texture.
Mr. Anderson, I don't advise you use the flute.
As your legal counsel, please. To top it all, I find his singing, this time round, close to vile.
Whoa!
But it's the... I know. But it's the cold, noisy, insensitive execution of the music, however vapid in and of itself, that provides the true and irredeemable pall. So who needs it? Lots of people, it seems. Has it come to pass that the rock audience is so jaded that a minute or two of flaccid, quote-unquote, jazz, and some penurious gestures toward the quote-unquote exotic can effectively disguise blatant mediocrity? ? Thank you, Jack Shadouian, for your opinions.
That is scathing. That is...
Yeah.
I want to go back and just listen to the whole album and just cry in the shower. That is rough. That's so rough.
I don't remember when the last time it was that I read such a bad review of anything.
Yeah.
And I just want to follow that up by saying that Benefit was the first Jethro Tull album to sell over 1 million copies.
Hey.
Take that to the bank. Or stuff that in your pipe and smoke it, Jack.
Okay, I want to play devil's advocate for the briefest of moments.
Okay.
And think about, and I think we had to do this with Chuckles McCrapface from the first one. Think about just crafty. Think about This Was and Stand Up.
I'm thinking of it. I'm thinking of them.
Completely wipe your memory of every album post-Benefit.
My mind is a blank.
You've heard Stand Up, you've heard This Was, and now Benefit comes out.
Right.
And it's really nothing like their two earlier albums. And it is a very new and unique sound.
Very, very unique, yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of ill-advised flute.
So ill-advised. I mean, I can understand this complete knob of a human being having this kind of reaction to it. Yeah, I can, because as you say, it's not what other people were doing. It doesn't read, it doesn't read like like traditional rock and roll.
Mhm.
Like, it doesn't sound like Led Zeppelin or the Beatles. It's a really, really different thing, and it's a bit weird, if we're honest with
Yeah.
ourselves.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I like it so much.
And I think that was part of the conflict that they were having with Chrysalis, is that Chrysalis didn't necessarily know how to market them.
Sure. And this is their first album on Chrysalis, right?
This is their first album on Chrysalis, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it was a relationship that they were still figuring out.
Yeah. Even though they had worked with Terry Ellis for the last 2 albums.
Sure, absolutely. But Chrysalis was also a new company at that point.
Right. So this guy is... He's not completely 100%, begrudgingly, I say, he's not completely 100% off the mark. But he is wrong.
Well, I disagree with him on several points. I disagree fiercely that the delivery is wooden.
Yeah.
But I do think that I understand where he's getting that from. I do think that
I do too.
That Ian's style on this album, singing wise, is reflective maybe, or introspective perhaps. And I can see that might come across to a person of a complete lack of any soul or imagination as wooden.
He's also, if the articles are to be believed, he's also in a darker mood as a performer, as a songwriter.
Right.
He's also probably gosh darn tired. They were touring the U.S.
Oh,
all through this experience.
Yeah.
And it is a slower... Everything has a slower pace in this album.
It does. And that feeling is enhanced by the fact that we're starting to get a lot of longer songs, like longer play songs.
Mm-hmm. And also, I think not only is everything slower, but everything melds better. MELDS, melds better. I don't know if...
What were you worried people were going to think you had just said?
I'm not hearing the DS part. I'm just hearing MELLS.
You would think people... Oh, yes.
Everything.
Yes, Nick. It melds
Oh, it
better.
is melling. Yeah, you're right. And because of that, there's nothing... I can see where you're not seeing individual pieces. It's
right,
more,
yeah.
Everything is every song is more collage-like.
That's true. And a lot of other albums have these kind of like firework displays or moments of real silence or really, strange rhythms that act as signposts in a way on the journey through the album. And this is more like being in just some rolling hills that kind of fade into the distance, and you're just always going around that curve and seeing a new hill top, but it all kind of it's a bit
You lost it.
I lost it.
And it's always dusk.
It is always dusk and like slightly foggy, slightly hazy.
The rolling fens.
The foaling wrens.
That's it. The wrens who have foals.
And some of them do, believe me. We knew some of them. Some of those foals and some of those wrens. Nick?
Yeah.
Shall we jump in to the water?
I'm itching. I'm itching to get onto this. I need
put on your cream.
I need my ointments.
Well, with you there to help me,
then it probably will.
Wow, that is a unique piece of music.
I feel breathless.
Yeah.
I could not begin to estimate how many times I've heard this song.
Oh, hundreds.
And every time, especially when I'm A, looking at the lyrics, and 2, have like really good stereo headphones on.
Yeah.
My God, that song.
Well, it's really interesting. So the recording style of this album is different.
Mm-hmm.
And their playing style is different.
Very much, yeah.
Glenn Cornick actually said that they were going for a more live sound with this album.
Mm-hmm.
And because they had been touring so much, they were able to be much more in tune with each other, much more kind of feeling it, if you will.
Yeah.
If you excuse the kind of street talk.
The things the kids are saying.
They were vibing.
I would say they've succeeded in that.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like this song is, you know what it reminds me of? We were just listening to it, I was like, what does this sound like? Like, what is this the sound of? What feeling does this remind me of? And I was like, oh, sleep deprivation.
Wow.
Like, you know that thing where it's like you've gotten maybe 6 hours of sleep at best every night for like a week or two, and you just kind of get that like constant floaty feeling like you're functioning, but you can't like things just start to blur together a little bit. And
I will give you the quote, the very last line of my notes. Moments of lucidity in between the bouts of madness.
Yeah. That's exactly it.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost feel like Ian Anderson was, whether consciously or unconsciously, summing up his experiences after this crazy year of touring. Even like the hand clappings coming in.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about that.
The kind of like hypnotic flute as this constant theme, and then Martin Barre like jumping in with those couple of moments that wake you up when he jumps in with the riff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the flute the flute kind of circles in between the two channels, like you can feel it moving in between the right and the left side, and it feels
like you're in constant motion.
Yeah, it's manic.
Right.
Yeah, so let's start at the beginning.
A very good place to start.
Where with that, I don't want to say iconic because I don't think most people would know it, but to us it's pretty iconic.
Sure.
That flute.
Yeah.
That breathy, the vocalization in there, that he can't quite catch his breath almost.
Yeah. It's really different. I mean, there's even in future albums, I don't think that he ever finds again or goes back to that particular sound. It's really
right.
It's really a moment in time that we're hearing with the flute.
Yeah. Well, what's after this? Aqualung?
Yes.
Aqualung's grungy and dirty, but that's like calculated grungy and dirty. This is raw.
Well, and it's also not, I wouldn't call it grungy. It's more like it's almost more psychedelic in a way, or hypnotic, or it's got a feeling of almost philosophical or spiritual dimensions to it.
You're talking about the flute in this one or Aqualung?
In this one.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
It's like transcendental.
I was going to say there's a Zen quality.
Or shamanistic almost. You
could get the same effect from like a singing bowl or something.
Sure.
Yeah. And it starts out mildly manic and picks up very quickly.
Yeah, and
but it just punches through at this solid chugging pace the whole way through.
And that's him. I mean, that's Ian Anderson. Mm-hmm. That's literally his mind, like
old reliable, basically.
Yeah, and think, like in the face of like things like that Rolling Stone review, and knowing that like this was so out of so outside the box and so different than what anyone else was doing. And just having the sheer tenacity to be like, no, this is the sound. This right here is the sound that we're going to record on an album. And then it sold 1 million copies.
To have the Stones to do it in the first place, to so successfully capture that feeling and that sound. It's just a case of people not, well, I get people did. I was going to say people not recognizing the genius in the moment, but over 1 million copies tells me they did.
Exactly.
It's just that this guy did not.
And, you know, I think that they're really benefiting at this point from having had the same lineup from the previous album to this album, because you can really hear how in sync they are, and how,
not to mention the insane number of hours they put into the tour.
Oh, exactly. Like they could do all this with their eyes closed, half asleep, and then probably were doing it.
Right, yeah. I'm sure at the tail end, yeah.
Take a quick nap during the flute solo.
It's a wonder that they even wrote anything at all.
Well, I was wondering about that, yeah, because and the way that these songs are written, like, especially this one, it has this kind of like, it's almost like this song could continue into infinity, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I wonder if Ian Anderson wrote a lot while traveling. I mean, like while actively traveling, while on the plane, while on the bus.
Sure.
Alone in his
that's when
room.
They could.
Right.
Yeah.
Contemplating his existence.
Right.
It's pretty trippy.
It is.
You want to talk about some of the individual lines?
I still want to just look at overall for just a second, just musically, sound wise.
Yeah.
The dichotomy of the verses and the kind of interstitial bridge parts and the chorus itself. Yeah. Sound wise, that chorus it's so triumphant. There's such an excitement and a hope.
Yeah.
And I listened, I didn't hear it the first time on the chorus, but the second time around, Glenn Cornick's bass, I noted it's going up. It's going up a set of stairs. It's boom, 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 boom.
Interesting.
Going back to the ones that I know, with whom I can be what I want to be. Just 1 week for the feeling to go, and with you there to help me, then it probably will.
And even though it's behind this crazy blanket of sound, even if you're not paying attention, you can feel it. And I think that's where that uplift comes from. I think that is the backbone of that.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's next when you listen to it again, as soon as we finish recording this, and you put it on repeat to put yourself to sleep, listen for that bass, because it's really cool. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Straight so and then to close out the song, they sing the chorus twice, and then they break it down a third time in a lot slower and in like a final triumph. But then it goes right back into that crazy manic.
Right.
The vocalization goes all over the place again.
The train's still on the road. I mean,
right, yeah.
The train's still on the tracks. I don't know how trains work.
There's a train on the road. I really like that chorus.
Yeah, it
in
does have
in
that
all
feeling of
aspects
hope and almost defiance.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely, and that is that moment of lucidity that I was talking about, right, in between the bouts of madness. Right. It's like he snaps back and he's like, "We got this. With your help, we can do this."
Right.
And then he goes back into that kind of almost defensive.
Right, or makes me think of kind of survival mode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Give 60 days for just one night. Don't think I'd make it, but then I might.
I'm assuming that's just one night of sleep.
That's what I read it as. Yeah, that's what I read it as. Like,
yeah.
And have you ever felt that way?
Yes. Yeah, when I had a newborn, yeah.
Yeah.
I won't go down acting the same old play, give 60 days for just one night.
Right.
Don't think I'd make it, but then I might. Same old play just feels very... We just toured for 4 months straight.
Well, I also feel like that's like saying I'm not going to go and record the sound that everyone else is recording. I'm not gonna fit in.
And the sound that we did. The sound that we had for the last 2 albums.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Well, I think that this is... So, Ian Anderson had said something about this album that made it sound like he's not overly fond of it in a way. But he did say that... Oh, he said it's rather dark, a rather dark and stark album, although it has a few songs on it that are rather okay. I don't think it has the breadth, variety, or detail that Stand Up has. But it was an evolution in terms of the band playing as a band. I think that it being an evolutionary album is really, like the sound that we're hearing when we listen to this song is really, they've laid their egg on the leaf with This Was. They've hatched out of their egg and eaten a bunch of leaf parts with Stand Up. And now they are making a chrysalis, if you will.
There it is.
And they are beginning to pupate.
Yeah, and I would say Aqualung is their butterfly. I think that's actually a very apt metaphor.
You're welcome. Insect metaphors always work.
Yes, they do. I guess I don't recall really ever hearing much from Benefit in any of the concerts that I ever went to, and that must be the explanation, is he was never terribly fond of it.
Well, let me throw this at you.
Give it to me.
Let's say that you were Ian Anderson.
Go on.
Why are you so mean to everyone? Okay, no, and you went through this touring period, and it was like maybe kind of a rough time for you emotionally, and you pour all that out into an album, therapeutic wise, and then it's like quite dark. It's full of feelings, full of darkness, full of the deep introspection of the soul on a damp Sunday afternoon. And then you've become a fabulous, undeniable success, landscape changing success. Would you want to go back to that time ever?
I suppose not. If that was the launching point. And yeah, it was successful, but it also stemmed from pain.
Right, exactly.
Then why bother going back to it, essentially?
Right.
If for no other reason, why bother?
Right.
That's pretty valid. And regardless of the emotions that I have tied to this album, he obviously has different emotions.
Yeah.
And he is still human, so how can we expect him to forego his emotions, the emotions that were put into this album? And we can surmise they're pretty dark and they were pretty rough.
I mean,
so why should we expect him?
You just listen to that breath when he's playing the flute.
Yeah.
He's processing.
Yeah. But in a sense, I imagine it was very cathartic and very therapeutic.
Oh, I'm sure.
But that's how he could process it at the time.
Right.
And no need to go back. Yeah. I think that's very valid.
Whew.
Yeah. Who is the you?
You read my mind, Nick. Well, on a personal level, I have to tell you this, that when I listen to this song, this is a song that means a lot to me personally, and was very connected to the time that I that we were listening to this album and you know, driving around in upstate New York as teenagers, and the whole concept of I'm going back to the ones that I know with whom I can be what I want to be. That always felt like going back to this summer community of performers that we worked with.
Yeah. Look at the first four lines rather. That is 100% applicable
I know.
too.
Oh my gosh, I know. It's obscenely just nails the experience of listening to this album, which again, this is our personal experience. But frankly, I always thought of you, Nick, on that line.
I accept. and likewise, this album, this is our song. This is our album for sure.
One of them.
Well, yeah, right. There will be a lot of emotions during Heavy Horses as well.
Oh goodness me! Oh my god.
But this one, windows rolled down, driving back from Oswego. It's dark out.
Oh my gosh!
We're just singing this song.
Yeah. Well, and all the goldenrod scent pouring in, and all the flower. I mean, upstate New York is like such a frickin' fecund fen.
Yeah.
Of fruits.
Frickin' feckin' fent. And the lightning bugs in those fields.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, the mist rolling in. I mean, it's like literally that is such a perfect. It's like almost too perfect a setting for that song.
Mm-hmm.
That we may have broken reality.
Well, I mean, there was a lot of reality warping at Sterling in those early years, anyway.
And that's true. So, in regards to for Ian Anderson, who the you is of, and with you there to help me, then it probably will. Honestly, I don't know. I mean, I can posit some theories. You could say that that's about his first wife, with whom I think he was really in love.
Jenny.
At that point, Jenny.
Yeah.
It could be about the band.
Uh-huh.
It makes me think of a line much, much, much later on in jtull.com where he very clearly, he's very explicitly talking about the members of his band.
Uh-huh.
It could be the audience. It could be himself.
See, I'm going back to the ones that I know with whom I can be what I want to be. That feels like the band to me.
Okay.
And with you there to help me, then it probably will, is the audience.
Interesting.
Yeah.
The belief coming from his fans.
Yeah. Yeah, because I can be with these guys and play the music all I want, but if we didn't have you, we're just playing to an empty stadium. We're just creating records for no reason.
To quote Jack Shadowian from Rolling Stone magazine, "So who needs Jethro Tull? Lots of people, it seems."
Yeah. Yeah, and you know what? There was probably as anyone who listens to an album that they really connect to, or even just a single song, I'm sure there was a lot of catharsis for people listening to this song themselves.
Absolutely. Think of all the weirdos who didn't, ever hear some feeling that they'd had expressed until they heard this album and even this exact song.
Yeah. Yeah. People who could not put to words their emotions for any number of reasons.
Right. Because, I mean, it's also so fascinating to think about, I feel like we as a generation are so much more in touch with our feelings and how we process things than the previous generation. And I'm sure that Ian Anderson was way more in touch with his feelings than his parents, but
even being in touch with your feelings does not make it easy to vocalize them.
Not without a flute.
Not without a flute and a lot of breath.
That's so much breath.
Yeah.
I wonder,
it adds to the song, though. Oh man, I couldn't even imagine it without the breath. It is equal parts of this song.
Well, and there's so many moments where you're like, you can't even separate like his vocalizations that he's making behind the flute from the flute tones, and he's got so many harmonics going on with the flute because he's playing it essentially wrong, from like standard flute playing technique, that he's really maxing out the sonic abilities of that instrument and blending it with his own voice. And like I honestly am curious from a medical standpoint how he didn't pass out playing this.
Right, yeah. And because it's so raw and there's so much power behind it, I think I feel the proxy. I lose my breath by proxy.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
I think that's one of the reasons why I end up breathless at the end of this song, because I think I stop breathing. I think I just take shallow breaths because of it.
Huh, interesting. You have like a mirror neuron response. Your breathing mimics the breathing of the one who's channeling the energy.
Yeah.
Whew. Nick.
Yeah.
I am so excited about the rest of this album.
I know. This is the first song.
I know. I wonder if we should leave it there for tonight.
I think we have to, because we're almost at an hour, which is really unheard of.
So Nick.
Yeah, Omen.
What are we listening to next week?
So next week, I can't say anything beyond just the name of the song. Next week is Nothing to Say.
And yet we will say a lot about it.
So with you there to help me get reviews and ratings for this podcast, we appreciate it if you could go on and any place, just tell us how much you enjoy the podcast. Honestly, even if it's not on a podcast thing, just reach out to us. Momes@fecklessmomes.com.
We'd like to hear from you.
That would be really great.
It would be a benefit,
genuinely
to us.
Delightful. It would be a benefit. So if we have voices for the next week, after we're done weeping, we will talk Tull to you about the second track off of Benefit, Nothing to Say.
Until then, I'm Omen Sade.
I am Nick McGill.
We are Feckless Momes.
And this is Talk Tull to Me.
Talk Tull to Me is a proud member of the Feckless Momes Audio Network.